Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this webinar. Charlie, Kim, and Jillian are a tremendous asset to our industry. I may say some things today that you may feel are a little pointed. There are some hard truths in our industry right now that we shouldn't ignore. And before Charlie brings up this next slide, I would, if you are triggered by graphic pictures, then I would suggest that you don't watch this next slide for a few seconds. So Charlie, bring up the second slide, please. The only reason I'm still alive today and still improving is because I've had to face and acknowledge hard truths about myself. It's the basis for my thriving. Let's go to slide 3. I'm going to use a golf analogy here to describe our times. We're in the middle of a critical game. We've been injured, but we're pushing through. Adrenaline is high. We're still in the hunt. Every shot we take hurts. Still, the ball sails towards the green. Maybe not the best lie, but considering the factors, not horrible. We grab our bag and hobble to where it landed. Breathing in and out, focusing on the next move, planning. We think there's no time to pay attention to the injury. This is us right now. 2020 has proven to be the year that keeps on giving and giving. And none of it is pleasant. So go to slide 4. There's a few approaches to our situation. A short view would be to completely ignore what's wrong and to keep blasting away at the ball like it's the last time. The trouble is it may end up being your last shot because ignoring what's wrong can ruin your game forever. This method is quite common. Keep the goal in sight. Laser focused, right? I got this. Another slide. Another way to take the time is to take the time to assess any problems. Will I do more harm than good by blasting away? Can I change my grip a little to mitigate the swing or carry the bag a different way? Maybe it won't seem as heroic, but what's the end game? The game and goal, the game or the career. Let's get to real life COVID time. I don't need to point out the problems drivers and companies are facing today. We all know them. Today I'm going to focus on the mental aspect. We've known all along that we're essential, and the public has had to finally realize this. We've gone from being hated and in the way to thank a trucker to somewhere back towards please get out of the way. It's been a wild ride, and while it can seem nice to have posters saying thank you truckers, the reality is we still have to deal with shippers and receivers that don't care how essential we are. Fuel stops have had to get their knuckles wrapped for pushing us away. Next slide. Family members have been harassed and discriminated against for being related to you. Trucking companies haven't been as empathetic as they should be. Oops, did I say that out loud? You didn't think I was just going to say how amazing you all are, did you? Go to the next slide. I'm alive, having survived injuries and trauma that should have ended my life more than once. You've seen my video from Bell Let's Talk. Not only am I alive, but I get to live the rest of my life with wonderful pain and complications. Okay, pain is not fun, but what I've learned has made it worthwhile. Next slide. I have a program that I've put together called How to Survive to Drive. It stands for honesty, openness, and working. So I'm going to be blunt. The honesty part is being honest with myself. I need to identify and acknowledge the issues that I have to deal with. Next slide. It's the same for you and your company. Being honest with the issues we're facing is the only way to survive in the end. As in golf, cheating or lying affects you. If you aren't honest with what your problems are, you will lose, and your competitors will see who you are and capitalize on that. It's so easy to think in dollars and cents when we're running a business. The attitude can be that we can find another driver if that one doesn't like something. Let's get a rookie who doesn't know better instead of veteran drivers who are smart enough to know when to complain. Maybe right now you're seeing that your turnover in 2020 is less than before. That's great, right? Let's go to the next slide. Probably not. I know many drivers who are very unhappy with how their company is treating them during this pandemic. They are holding out until conditions improve, and then they'll be on to the next company. You're not in a good position either. I know that. Lanes are disrupted, rates are all over the place, and tensions are very high. All of us are under stress. What you're doing today, how your drivers feel like they're being treated, will affect you down the road when things level out. Here's a real example. Driver goes to shipper to load freight. Team partner, who happened to be female, asked to use the washroom and was denied. There was no porta potty on site, which was pointed out. This employee told the lady to go pee in the parking lot. They did not care. The drivers complained to the company and were told that it was company policy. No outside people into the building. The Provincial Trucking Association ended up getting involved and was told by management that an allowance is always made for drivers. When it's pointed out to the manager that the reality was different, the manager looked into it and found that employees were making their own rules. The trucking company and broker involved couldn't care less. The shipper denied any issue until the association was involved. These drivers won't go back there. Neither did they have any good words for the broker. The shipper did call the drivers and apologized a few days later, but the damage has been done. Next slide. If you aren't backing up your drivers in situations like this, you are part of the problem. You are choosing revenue over a human. Drivers don't care what you say as much as they care what you do. All the posters in the world that say how wonderful your drivers are and how much you appreciate them don't mean anything if you don't look after them. In fact, posters declaring how much they love their drivers, when in fact their actions don't show that, have the opposite effect. No one likes a liar. Next slide. If a driver comes to you with a concern, please take it seriously. It's not always that the complaint is the actual issue. I was giving a seminar at a company where the HR person told me that she was coming down hard on a driver for something. The driver manager had to go to her and explain to her that the driver had some underlying issues that were affecting him. Remember, these complaints go both ways. But what is the root cause? Why is a driver who is normally good at something slipping up? Why are multiple drivers leaving? What is the root cause? Is it dispatcher or driver manager disrespecting drivers, or vice versa? Be honest. It's not always obvious. In fact, it's rarely obvious until it's too late. Will this take more time to deal with? Sure it will. Just like in the golf game, assessing what is wrong may delay you a little up front. Take the time because it will pay dividends later. It will save you time later. You'll make more money when your drivers are part of the team, when they feel like you're doing everything possible to create the best work environment anywhere. If you're a destination employer, your turnover will drop drastically. Maybe there's a person in your office who is making their own rules that aren't in line with company policy. You will kill driver morale really fast if you don't address the problem. Drivers are stressed today, even if they're not showing it. We're running on adrenaline or just tired of trying to do our jobs when we aren't being supported. My personality is that if I'm talking and giving suggestions, we're good. Years ago, I was at a horrible small company as a dispatcher after I'd been a driver for them. I used to drive the mechanic home, and one day he commented that I was quieter, and he thought that was great. He was shocked when I resigned later that week. I had tried hard to make change for the better, and I was getting abused by the owner. The owner thought he was winning because I got quiet, and then I was gone. Pay attention to changes in your employees. When they change, it's not always a good thing. A person invested in a company wants to help get things rolling better. Next slide, please. The second part of my how is being open. When you have identified the issue, You learn as much as you can. Ask questions. Look at it from all angles. Don't lock yourself in by saying this is how we do it because this is how we have always done it. Is there a better way? It can be very humbling to admit the problem. It's not easy to learn what can be done. For me, it was the hardest thing I've ever done to realize that I needed to change. I needed to look at my problems clearly. Everyone can see a person with a broken leg or a cast on an arm and they empathize with that. A person who has mental issues is often just called a whiner or a jerk. Next slide. Hard times like now are the best times for survival. When things are going great, many issues are hidden or glossed over. Tough times show what we're made of. The sad reality is that even when we may have the best operation, circumstances beyond our control will dictate whether we survive or not. Don't take too much credit when things are going well, and don't be too harsh when things aren't so smooth. I've been blunt, but I choose to believe that you're here because you want to improve. Every one of us, every company has good that we can work with. Next slide, please. I've heard the talk before that there's not enough time to know all your drivers, to know what's going on. That's complete and utter nonsense. I have never seen this in reality because every person has someone to report to. Every driver or employee has a manager of some kind. I don't expect to know a driver under my care in 2 weeks, but I'll sure try to get to know them as soon as possible. Yes, I was a fleet manager at a large company at the turn of the century. Other managers knew that if they couldn't cover a load, they just had to ask me to talk to one of my drivers. My method was really simple. Listen to the driver, respect the knowledge they have of the customer and conditions, and don't BS them. What office person knows better than the people doing the work? Think of the example I used where the driver wasn't allowed to use the washroom. There was a disconnect in that office that needed to be addressed. The trucking company wouldn't help fix that. That's just wrong. Next slide. The last part of my process is to put it to work. Say what you do and do what you say. Such a simple phrase that really isn't so simple. When you're in a rut, it's hard to get out, and if you correct too hard, you may end up in a ditch. It's tough. I know that. We get so used to one way of treating people. Next slide, please. Selling this process to yourself and to your company is vital. Look to the end goal. If it's golf, look forward to playing the next game. In business, look forward to coming through this crazy time, and flying high is a place where employees love to come to work. Even if they don't like the job as much as they used to, maybe your attention to detail will encourage them and they will fall in love with driving again and have a longer career. I stress this so much. Our tough times are the best times for improving. If you don't look at it this way, if you're not paying attention to your drivers, your processes, you will be in for a huge shock after this time is easing up. Don't be complacent. Next slide. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate everybody listening, and I believe in you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. That was a fantastic presentation. I apologize for how we started off there, but you know, you rolled with it, and which is why we have backups, right? And why we had the presentation ready to go. I did want to share, I know we're kind of coming short on time because of our technical issues to start there, but there were several comments that came through, just a couple questions also came through. All of them are just thanking you for what you do, thanking you for sharing, just what a great presentation it was. So I will let our audience know if you do have any questions for David to please put that in the questions bar. He has agreed to, we'll be in touch with him and he'll be following up. We'll put together that document. But David, I know that was a very personal presentation. I've seen you speak a couple times now. On behalf of all of us at the NRRS and Transrep, as well as all of our delegates today, thank you very much. I appreciate you for sharing that.
Thank you.